with respect to the timing of the chart and the timing of the situations and circumstances, wouldn't you like to know when the right time to take a really, really concrete, important step in your life? And I know that you here are here because of fertility. And I know that you're here because this is a really sensitive, private, it's a very sensitive, private step. And it's a very sensitive and private communication that you have with your doctor over this. My role, if you were to choose to use my services, my role would be to help you with the timing of the procedures that your doctor was going to be using. And I tell you how this works. You've heard of the Farmer's Almanac? We've all heard of the Farmer's Almanac, right? And doesn't the Farmer's Almanac tell us what to plant? Well, what is planting? Planting is putting a seed in the ground, watering it, letting it germinate, and ta-da, we have a beautiful plant. We have wheat, we have flowers, we have whatever it is that we're planting. The Farmer's Almanac tells us, by the moon, the best time to plant. So if the Farmer's Almanac is telling us by the moon the best time to plant, then in fact when we are working with in vitro fertilization or any of the other techniques that are being used, or when we're looking at conception and we're looking at becoming pregnant, would we not think that that is much the same as germinating, planting a seed in the ground, watering it, and take sprout? So when we look at an individual's chart, the chart enables me to see the timing, the accurate timing for an individual to go through a procedure and to be right where they're supposed to be with respect to having this procedure done. How I know this is because I have done this many, many times for many couples with great success. I have a whole little barrage of little people that I've got pictures, people have sent me pictures, that I gave them the dates and they were able to conceive by these dates. Some were through in vitro fertilization, some were through natural pregnancy. But the bottom line is they all were able to conceive as a result of the dates I gave them. So when I look at an individual's chart, I'm looking at where the moon is. So the chart enables you to put together where all the planets are. So there's the sun, which is who you are. There's the moon, which is your emotional nature, which is also the planet that has to do with nurturing, because it's your emotions. And that's why the Farmer's Almanac uses the moon, because the moon is the nurturing planet. It's the moon. It's through the moon's nodes. That's how they know when things are going to be able to be growing. They also know by weather. The weather is also determined through the moon's nodes. So the moon is your emotional nature. Then you have Mercury, which is the way you think. You have Venus, which is the way you relate. And you have Jupiter, which is the way you expand. And I love that planet Jupiter when I say the way you expand, because that's what we're looking for. We're looking to expand because we're looking to make a child. So when I put a chart together for the sole purpose of getting dates for the right times for any type of procedure, I'm looking to see where the moon is, I'm looking to see where Venus is, and I'm looking to see where Jupiter is. And when those three planets line up, it can be all three of them, or it can be two of them. But when they align up, then we know what the dates are. Now, the interesting thing is that the dates that I give aren't always the dates that people want to have happen. In other words, they don't want to wait that long. They just don't want to wait that long. However, I urge them to wait, because if you're already going to start taking the hormones, and if you're already starting to get into that place where you're in that mindset that you want to conceive a child, you're already going to do it. Why not do it with a date that could give you the results that you're looking for, rather than shooting in the dark? And that's what I like to think, is I'm not shooting in the dark. I'm not helping people to just throw up, you know, just to throw something into the ring and say, okay, fine, if it's heads it works, if it's tails it doesn't. I'm actually giving them dates that will actually work. And there usually are more than one date. They may not be again when they want them, but there usually is more than one date. Years ago I had a lady who came to me, and it was really, really interesting. She had two questions. One was when, well, she had many questions, but one was when she was going to get married, and one was when she was going to have a child. All right? This is really interesting because I still see this individual. And this is years ago. I'm going back 15, 20 years ago. And I remember her sitting in my office, and I was doing her reading, and I looked at her and I went, you know, good news is you are going to get married. The bad news is it's not this year. When? I said 5 years. Well, I thought she was going to kill me. I thought she was going to jump over the desk and just strangle me. Right? I said 5 years. She says, okay, well, we'll just have to figure that one out. She says, well, when am I going to have a baby? I said, 5 years after that. She said, do you realize that I will be 45 years old by your calculations? I said, exactly right. That's what I'm seeing. I can't make it any different. I can't tell you you're going to be 36 or 38 or even 40. I can tell you that you're going to be 45 years old. Well, she wasn't happy. She was not happy at all, and she was actually really mad. But there's nothing that I could do about it. I couldn't change it. I wouldn't lie. Make a long story short, she did marry somebody. She met somebody, and she did get married 5 years later, and she did have a child, and she's since had another one after 45. All right? So to me, that gives people hope. To me, that says, you know what? You're never too old to conceive. You're never too old to, if the energy is right, and again, that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about planetary energy. So if the energy is right, then it gives us that edge. It gives us that edge to be able to make decisions that are beneficial to not only our well-being, but also financially. And it is expensive, and I know that it's expensive, but it's worth it. So if you're going to spend the money already, why not spend the money on a date that's going to work rather than a date that may not work? So getting back to the logistics of it all, one of the questions you may have is, well, you're just looking at the woman's chart. Why aren't you looking at the man's? Well, this is the other interesting thing, is mostly it is about the woman's body. All right? Now, I have looked at a chart, but I've only looked at a man's chart for birth or for conceiving, is if the man does not want to have a baby. So it's almost like the woman is asking me, well, is he ever going to want to have a child? And I have to look at the chart and say, yeah, but he's just not ready right now. So we sometimes will look at both charts to see how they intertwine and how they're compatible with each other to move forward and to have this wonderful event happen.